Mhm. Okay. Well, let's see, visually quiet night. Um, so welcome everyone to the October 9th Deauville Conservation Commission hearing. Um, and Lori, can you read the guidance by the governor, please?
Following guidance issued by the governor regarding the open meeting law, this public meeting will be held remotely. Individuals wishing to participate may do so using Zoom video conferencing technology, and to join the meeting by video using a computer or tablet, you may use the link listed on the agenda. And to join by phone, please call the telephone number and enter the meeting ID and password, and the meeting is being recorded.
Great, thank you. So something we've started over the last few meetings, if there are any members of the public who are not on this evening's agenda, who have any comments that they would like to share with us, feel free to do so now. And hearing or seeing none, we'll proceed with the start of this evening's meetings. So first up, we have a minor modification request for 36 Miller Hill Road. And Janet, can you fill us in on that?
Sure. So this is an existing order of conditions. It was for a pool area and then some hardscaping. The applicant would like to relocate the proposed fence around the pool due to safety concerns. The fence is very close to the patio area and it's sloping, and they determined that if someone were to fall, they could injure themselves on the fence. So they would like to move it closer to the wetland resource area, but it remains outside the 70-foot no structure setback. And the new fence is being proposed within the existing lawn area. I did do a site inspection, and in my opinion, it will not alter or have a negative impact on the wetland resource area. So I do recommend approval of the minor modification. I did ask for a revised site plan to show the correct year on the plan, and that has been submitted. So we have everything we need. I know the applicant's representative, Diane, is here. I don't know if the commission would like to see on a site plan the location of the new fence.
I do have that available to share if you'd like to see it.
Sure. Why don't we go ahead and do that? Thank you.
Okay.
And has this been shown to us before, or is this something recent, Janet?
This was submitted about 2 weeks ago, so it's something, it's a new request.
Okay. I just didn't know if we'd seen this version of the fence line before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and Lori, can you give her permission to share?
Should be all set, Diane.
Okay, it's still not showing. Oh, it's updating here. I got the blue spinning wheel. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, lucky you.
It's still not showing that I can share. View. No, let me just change my view. Maybe it's hidden. Go to full screen. There we go. That popped that up. Okay, so
There we go.
okay, so the pre-existing line that we had was in yellow, and that came close to the edge of the pool patio here. And what we were asking is, and you can see it kind of here, it kind of jogged in here. So what we're asking is for it to be the orange line, which again, as Janet mentioned, is within the limit of work that was approved for the construction of the house. And these are markers that are currently at the limit of work area or yard. So again, we're just moving it slightly away from this patio, which is elevated. And I do have pictures if you'd like to see the current. So currently you see here, this is the edge of the patio and the pool fence. It's hard to see how high, but it's just slightly higher than the pool patio. And they're afraid if kids actually, they have a few boys and they're afraid they'll be jumping and for balls and such and may puncture themselves on the top of the fence. So they're hoping to move it down to where this is, that's the erosion control, and it's several feet down gradient of the existing fence line.
Okay,
They'll have to be better jumpers.
right, just gives them something to aspire.
Right.
Yeah. You have kids.
So, commissioners, anyone have any questions?
No.
Okay, you can take that off screen, Diane, thank you.
Okay.
And thanks for showing it to us. Let's see, I will entertain a motion to grant the minor modification.
Move to grant the minor modification.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Anna? Is that an aye? Okay, and I'm an aye as well. Okay, so granted, and just check in with Lori in terms of next steps, please. Okay,
Thank you and have a good evening.
thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Let's see, for continued notice of intent on this evening's agenda, we have 8185 Tisdale, ANRAD, and there's they've asked to postpone that to the next meeting, and it
Yes.
still does not have a DEP number as well. Where do we stand, Lori, with Pagan Lane?
So Pagan Lane is here.
Okay.
I will let you know that 7 Buttercup requested a continuance also, the following one after Pagan Lane.
Oh, okey-doke. Great, thank you. Janet, why don't you update us on lot 5, please?
So this is a continued hearing. As you'll recall, this is a vacant lot. It is disturbed. It's lawn and natural vegetation. The lot did receive an approval not required from the planning board. The notice of intent is only proposing the driveway and associated stormwater infrastructure. There is no building envelope or building proposed at this time, based on feedback from the applicant, but they did want to get confirmation and an order of conditions on the proposed driveway, a retaining wall, and a stormwater management infrastructure. At our last hearing on this, there were, I had a number of concerns and requests for additional information, as well as formal regulatory waiver requests for disturbance within the 50-foot no disturb, and also to allow structures within the 70-foot no structure. The applicant and their representative have addressed all of the concerns that were identified and also have submitted the required 2 regulatory waiver requests. I am recommending approval of the waiver request under our grandfather policy. Since the proposed work is located within previously disturbed areas and there are no other practical alternatives due to the existing site conditions. So I am recommending your approval of both of the waiver requests. And then I had 10 special conditions. They basically follow our regular conditions.
Okey-doke. And commissioners, any questions concerning this? So there's been a little back and forth, and the applicant has complied with some changes that were requested, and there's been a fair amount of engineering work to make sure nothing untoward happens with runoff and the like. So I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
John, you want to ask for public comment first?
I can't. Is there anyone any members of the public who would have any comments on this?
I was wondering where we might be able to get a copy of the current plan from Kevin. Is that something that can be emailed to us? Because I know some changes were made and his write-up, how could we get a copy of that, of the approved plan?
You could come into ask to the office for Lori, or you could have Kevin email you a copy. That's typically the way it would happen. Or yeah, check with Lori if depending how the vote goes. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but and then if it's approved, then give Lori a call and make arrangements. She can either get you a hard copy or a PDF.
Okay.
Does that make sense for folks? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then
Okay, move to close the hearing.
Second.
thank you. All in favor? Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And then entertain a motion to
Move to grant the waiver request to allow disturbance within the 50-foot no disturb setback.
Second.
Can we combine those two?
Sure, and
Okay.
to allow structures within the 70-foot no structure setback.
Okay. Entertain a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Okay, move to issue a standard order of conditions approving the project with the 10 special conditions outlined in the agent's report.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So it's been approved. And as I said, Michael, check in with Lori. Let's see. Lori, when would you have be able to print a copy of this? Do you have the hard copies in the office?
I do, and I can hopefully, if the machine is working, scan and send him a copy.
Mhm.
If not, I'll figure out a way.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Great. Any other questions, Mike?
I'm good.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. And oh, and then obviously, if any work is to get started, then you have to contact the office and Lori and Janet. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All set.
Okay, and then on 7 Buttercup has continued, and we're looking for the continuation of the request for the certificate of compliance on 210 Claybrook Road. And Janet, why don't you fill us in on that, please?
The last time they were in to present this, there was some number of outstanding issues. There was an unpermitted fence. They needed a waiver request for that, and there was also some signage. So they have not come back with any additional revised documents, so we would need to continue that.
Okay, then and Lori, have you heard from them? Did they request a continuance or anything, or?
I did not hear from anyone on this one.
Okay, I'm sure we will. Okay. Let's see. Moving on, we have a continuing RDA and enforcement order for 31 Springdale. And that we had, let's see. I don't see anybody here for that. Is there a continuance for that?
No, Mitch Maslanka is here for that.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Mitch. Okay, so Janet, we had a letter from Paul. Paul is handling this. but he could not be at this evening's meeting. And but Mitch, why don't you can you share with us the plan and the letter that you sent? You can
Yes,
send you. Okay, why don't you fill us in on where we stand?
sounds good. I will share my screen right now. So yeah, just for the record, Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting, wetland scientist. I submitted the restoration report for 31 Springdale. So I'm pulling up my screen now, sharing it. Okay. Here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yep,
Yes.
we can.
Awesome.
I can.
Great. So, yeah, just brief overview of the restoration plan for 31 Springdale. So we've got our single family house over here. We've got a bordering vegetated wetland system over here on the right side of the house in that blue line here. And this long linear feature here is the impact that occurred during the project. So what happened was this ditch was filled in with a culvert and then backfilled, and then some irrigation lines were put in potentially over this area and then seeded as lawn. There was an existing crossing with a small culvert section here, so that, you know, whatever previous homeowner lived there could access that back area over the other side of the ditch. The reason we know that this was a long linear feature is because we had the site plan from 2014. Additionally, Mass Mapper had shown the 1 foot LiDAR, and you could see that it was still shown on Mass Mapper's database that there was that linear feature there, and gave us some pretty good information for how large the ditch was, and it seemed to be pretty accurate with what the site plan had shown. So additional impacts include over on the left side of the house, some understory clearing. We didn't show any of the trees over in this area, but this area is vegetated with trees, some small shrubs, and what happened was in this area, some heavy machinery work was just trucking through in this area. And since the initial disturbance around a year ago, this area's been pretty much stabilized. This area has even been seeded as a meadow in this little triangle here, this little polygon. So this area is has been on the path to natural revegetation. Over in this purple large area, this was pre-existing, or my bad, this is existing lawn area. So in this area, we've got pre-existing lawn that is within that 50 foot. And we know this because of that 2014 site plan that showed the forest boundary. Over here, it also showed the forest boundary, but there's a septic system project. So you can see that old limit of work line there. So this little forest, you know, is no longer there. That's lawn. And then the trees is likely, their canopies likely are what's shown on that that forest edge plan there. So it's likely that there is some lawn beneath these trees at the time. So this hatched area here in teal is new lawn that is being proposed to be restored with some shrubs, put a planting plan together. So I have details on plantings here, 30 shrubs throughout the area with a
Do you want to just go upstairs? I'm getting really pissed off right now.
Excuse me, Sarah, can
I'm
you
sorry.
mute, please?
Sorry.
Thanks.
So,
Sorry.
Go,
I thought I was muted.
oh,
so there's about 30 shrubs in the area. We got witch hazel, staghorn sumac, hazelnut, lowbush blueberry, and common juniper. Species that I figured would be able to survive in the type of environment we've got up there. A nice level, flat area of upland. So the proposal is also going to include removing that culverted section of stream and restoring it back to the pre-existing characteristics of what's shown on that mass mapper LiDAR in this 2014 site plan. Just gonna reseed it with a wet mix lawn, wet mix native seed mix to revegetate that area. Based on what I've seen for the characteristics of this BVW and this BVW over here, it's unlikely that this was, a regularly flowing stream. It seems like it was more of an overflow ditch for this wetland over here, which receives a lot of stormwater runoff from the roadway. The area will pond after large rain events, and my best presumption is that this was sort of an overflow channel to keep this water level down and bring some sort of connectivity over to this wetland over here. So that is the current proposal at this time. Paul did come back with a couple of comments, and he'd like to visit the site with me and Will if he's around, just to he can get some eyes on the site, compare our plans with what he sees on the site, and talk things out there, and then we can come back to another Conservation Commission meeting and go over what his additional comments are. So that's our initial proposal for now. So let me know if you guys have any comments.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. The trees that you're showing on there, are those existing trees or are
Yes.
they? Okay.
Yep. So these trees are all still in existence in the lawn area.
And have you shown was there evidence of trees that have been cut down within that proposed lawn area?
So there may have,
yeah.
so
There
there's
were,
a
go
tree
ahead.
here, a couple of trees were shown on this plan. So this guy was here though, this guy might have just been a little offset. But yeah, it looks like there may have been a few trees here.
So I think that's something Paul can address for commissioners. This trench, basically they put a culvert in. Do you know, Mitch, how wide a culvert it is?
I'd want to say a foot in diameter, maybe a foot and a half.
Okay. So what so that was put in without permission, and the scenario you're presenting is to remove that and just replace the culvert that had been under the crossing that pre-existed all this this work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was some it looked like there was some work that was done to the right of the house that intruded on the wetland itself.
Yes. So thanks for bringing that up. So over here, since there was fill placed here for lawn, some of that TOA slope, some sediments did probably encroach right into the BVW. Nothing crazy to be concerned about, just a couple of shovels worth, really, go in there with a shovel, kind of scoop out along this BVW TOA slope here and take it off, off to where it's an appropriate area to deposit it. And then same over here in the ditch that right outside where the culvert is, it looks like there is some sand deposit there. That is just as easy to, scoop up with a shovel and take to an appropriate area. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so just for commissioners to know, I don't know if anyone else had a chance to see Paul's letter, which came in today. He looking for a little bit more evidence of the prior condition of these areas. I think part of that can be, it looks like you overlaid the 2014 plan. Is that correct, Mitch?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so there was evidence of existing trees. I think there may have been a permission granted for some trees to be cut on the left side of the lot here. And after the septic system was installed, but like you have you address the trees that are shown on the 2014 plan and that are no longer there when you meet with Paul. Also, Paul's concern was that that the proposed shrubs, I don't know if they were like 36 or something, 30 within almost 13,000 square feet of area. That's greater than a quarter of an acre. That he thought that seemed a little light for the planting plan. So I expect that's something that you'll be addressing with Paul. And if you can make arrangements as soon as possible so that we can try to squeeze something into this growing season to meet with him out there. Commissioners, are there any questions concerning this?
Makes
And
sense. Like to go and meet out there. Sounds good.
Yep, and are there anyone else in the community has any questions concerning this? Okay, then why don't we move forward on this? Mitch, please get in touch with Paul and keep Lori apprised of things. And also Lori can let us know if there's a site visit if any commissioners want to attend. Okay.
Yes, certainly. Thank you.
Okay.
John,
Yeah, Janet, yeah.
just a quick comment, and Mitch, if you can also include me in the loop on the site visit. So when I did the original inspection and then outlined the enforcement order, on the right-hand side of the house, off of the driveway, further close to the street where you have your purple, I have photos of substantial amount of fill. You referenced a couple shovels of dirt maybe to be removed, but I would like to meet with you on site. And the photos are included in the enforcement order that shows a substantial amount of fill on that side. So I think maybe we can take a closer look at that when we're out. And then on the left side of the property, getting close to the perennial stream, again, I would say it was several feet of fill. It may have naturally vegetated now, but I think we need to take a closer look at, the elevation difference perhaps now. And perhaps it's sufficient, and what's growing there now is sufficient to protect the interests of the act. But I would like to take a closer look.
And I had a question now that you brought this the photos up, Mitch.
Yes.
The sand that's out there that's shown on the second photo down, is that what's at the end of the culvert?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And does that seem like it is there since the culvert was put in, or does it predate the culvert?
That's tough to say. That is tough
Okay.
to say. I would want to say it's probably from after the culvert was installed, but it's really tough to say how long it's been there.
Okay. So does that look like road sand, or does that look like fill that may have come down that slope to the right of the house?
I wanted to say maybe it was, during the installation of the culvert, just after maybe some storm, washed it through. I'm not really entirely sure where or how it got there, to be honest.
Okay.
But I flagged it as, something out of the ordinary and something that's, relatively easy. You just bring a wheelbarrow over, take it over. And Janet's right about there is a lot of fill that was imported to the site. Just to clarify, I was talking about BVW fill in the BVW itself, like right here. This is the right side of the house that Janet was mentioning. There definitely was fill that was brought in up here to probably, level it off a bit better. And this section here of fill that, kind of is on this side of the silt fence. This is the part that I believe is the most critical part to remove with the shovels. Based on the on my map, I used some GPS to do this delineation here, and it matched up pretty well with this old plan. So I'm pretty confident that we didn't have a large amount to fill enter that wetland, because we also have some standing trees right at that boundary line that are still standing and in place too. So I'm pretty confident that whatever fill was brought in, it was brought in into this buffer zone area, very close to the BVW line, and then just a little bit of it crossed over that line.
So
But
thanks.
more than happy to look at that again with you, Janet, on site with Paul too.
Janet, can you, when you do that, part of this, things got a little confused here and there, but I don't know if that, that fill between the garage and the BVW, whether that was approved in terms of, any sort of backyard access, since there seems to be plenty of access on the left. Can you just take a look at that and try to get a sense of what was done there?
Yeah, the original RDA for the patio work and the septic work, that was all from the left side of the house. So there was no access approved on the right side.
Okay, so if you just review that elevation wise to see if any changes there are that material.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Any other concerns that you want to raise, Janet?
We did, John, you and I discussed briefly the fact that we're bringing Paul in as a third party, and that did him to come up with a cost estimate for his services, and then have the owner put that in escrow. If Paul's already started work on that, we probably should do that as soon as possible.
Okay, and Lori, do you know, has Paul submitted anything for that?
Not yet.
Okay, so if you could remind him in your next conversation with him, please.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions on this, or we set to continue this? Okay. Okay, then let's keep the pedal down on this and try to get this all taken care of before the winter. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Okay. Let's see. Next we have if you can take the map off. Okay. Let's see. Then we have are you staying on, Mitch, for 29 Saddle Ridge?
Oh no.
Oh,
No, I was
why-
not.
I'll give it a go.
Should maybe I call someone right now?
I don't know if this was there any specific request or communication that this was going to take place? Was this between both parties, Lori?
I added it because there was a memo received from the owner after the last meeting. So I didn't know if it needed to be discussed. Let's see. If no one's here for it, then
Yeah, why don't we move to the
I
next
guess
one?
Yeah.
If commissioners, if you can look up the letter that came in, or Lori can resend it, and so that we're all up to date on that. The letter seemed to have two parts that they can describe when they're in front of us, but one seemed to be looking at moving forward with our enforcement order and requesting permission for a fence. And then the other one, I'm not quite clear, was looking to readdress some of our decisions that we've already voted on. But since we don't have anybody here for that this evening, let's continue that. And Mitch, if you
Question
can
on that
find out.
before we jump.
What's that? Yeah.
I read the letter. Was the last paragraph the planting plan? Or are we treating it as a letter? Because there's kind of general reference.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't recall the planting plan on that. That's why I'm asking everyone else to review it. There may have been one, but I didn't I don't recall that being I didn't get that sense from it. It just seemed like it was an intermediate letter saying, okay, let's move on from here. Mitch, are you handling that or is that Mark?
That's definitely Mark. So
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
just fill him in, let him know.
Yeah, so why don't we, yeah, we'd like to move on. We got that letter. Let's see if we could figure out a way to wrap this up. And you can let him know as far, we voted on it. As far as the bylaw is concerned, it meets the volume requirements. Now we want things to be restored and any other issues that they want to bring up relative to that restoration, we're open to review. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before you go, any other, does anyone else have any questions concerning 29 Saddle Ridge at this point? Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks,
Awesome.
Mitch.
Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.
But, okay, let's see. Actually, I see it. This is actually under the enforcement order correspondence. So if folks can read that so that we're ready for this for at our next meeting. Let's see, the land management work group update.
Yes, so we had to.
Before we do that, I just wanted to see where we have our discussion relative to Claybrook Road. Do we have that on?
Yeah, it's under the agent's report.
Okay, why don't we, since we have Fiona here, rather than having her wait on this, why don't we just move to that update? So Janet, do you want to go ahead and fill us in on that?
Sure. So back at the end of July 29th, we had a site walk with the DPW director and the consultants from Woodward and Curran, and also the wetland scientist from Ecotech there, and Fiona Roman, who's a direct abutter to that area, joined as well. There were a number of concerns focused on the health and variety and density of the vegetation. There was concern about wildlife access along that portion of the Charles River. There was some related concern about the slope of the embankment, and that it did not, there were deviations from the original design plan, and we wanted some clarification on that. There was some concern about sedimentation runoff into the river, again, due to the slope on the embankment. And then finally, the last issue was that the sheet pile wall that is helping to hold up the steel pilings that are stabilizing that area, that the way they are angled now, they hold water. So there was a concern about breeding mosquitoes, West Nile virus, triple E, and if there was a way to remedy that. And so we did get this response back from the wetland scientist and the engineers. The wetland scientists agreed that there had been some die-off of some of the vegetation, and that their plan was to revegetate and increase the volume, mostly of ferns and also high bush blueberry. They addressed the fact that there were deviations from the design on the embankment slope, but they indicated that this was done in field in order to leave the existing bank in an as undisturbed as possible. And they concluded that the gentler slope has resulted in less erosion potential during construction, and that they feel there's no increased potential for erosion into the river. They feel that area is stable. They conclude with regard to sedimentation, they had some photos, and it was their conclusion that there were no substantial differences between pre and post construction conditions. And then on the sheet pile wall issues, they confirmed that they could drill some small holes in the wall, the base that's holding the wall, to allow drainage about 1 inch in diameter, spaced at least every 2 feet away from the tieback locations. They also said they could fill the whalers also with gravel to keep standing water out of them. So that's like a 2-prong approach that I think makes sense. They also said they could paint them if there is an aesthetic concern for the town. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to review that, but I don't know if there's any further discussion. It seems to me that the action items is the additional vegetation planting. And then I would think we'd want them to continue to monitor closely to make sure there is no sedimentation. And then go ahead and ask them to drill the holes into the sheet pile wall, fill it also with gravel. So if there is some standing water, that could help prevent standing water. And then I don't know about painting the wall, whether that's something people think is needed. And I did send a copy of this memo to Fiona, so it would be interesting to hear her feedback as well.
Okay. Has anyone besides Fiona gone down there to see where vegetation stands today? Given that was a couple months ago.
No.
Okay. So yeah, there were some additional plantings, the page after that you were referring to. So so they are looking at adding additional things. My question was, do you know, Janet, this is what Ecotech is saying that could be done. Do we know how we make sure that this gets done relative to the highway department?
I think we would just send a response to them
Mhm.
and asking them to go ahead and implement the additional vegetation and to monitor it. I think it was like 9 new shrubs, 25 ferns have died off, and they recommended replacing the ferns with shrubs. So that would be at least, 34 new shrubs. And that's a good start. They are on the hook for 3 years of monitoring vegetation. And they are submitting monthly progress reports. So this will be an ongoing assessment, but we could ask them to go ahead and plant those shrubs now. And then also address the sheet wall.
Yeah, so if you recall, I think they're calling these are the horizontal supports that go along. They're calling them whalers. And those are things, there was a concern about them holding standing water for potential mosquitoes, as opposed to drilling into the wall itself. And as long as we were clear to them what the intentions are there. Fiona, anything to add to this letter?
Well,
Your
hi.
review?
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me all right?
No, we hear you fine. Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the site meeting. I did review the document, and I fully support the replacement of vegetation. If they can get 3-foot plants, that would help, because it seems to me from reading the report that much of what perished because of choking from other types of plants like wild cucumber vine and that sort of thing, which I've been witnessing. So that would be good. I also would certainly support the drilling of the whalers and the filling of them with gravel, because they have been filled with water continuously just about all summer. And given the risk of mosquito, waterborne diseases, that's very important. And I think at that meeting, you saw a couple of neighbors went by and expressed that concern. So that would be great. I also certainly would support the painting of the whalers. I think my neighbors would also, particularly those, we're fortunate that we live on the south side of the river, but those who live out, past the riverbank, looking back at those silver whalers, from an aesthetic standpoint, if those whalers could be painted before or after they're drilled, but certainly before they're filled with gravel, that would be something I think the residents of Claybrook Road would greatly appreciate. One thing that Janet didn't mention was one of my concerns was the coming and going of wildlife, which happens regularly and seasonally between the brook that runs behind my home from Trout Brook along. It turns west and heads behind us. There's a lot of wildlife back and forth. There always has been. This wall is a tremendous impediment to that. And one thing that this report did mention was that possibly on the east and west ends of the embankment, where the grade is quite shallow, much less steep, and I believe there's large rocks there, that could be loamed and seeded in order to provide some sort of egress for wildlife entering and leaving the river. So I would certainly support that also.
Great, thank you. And I think it would be up to them. I remember when we were standing at the more on the Center Street end of things. There's a riprap slope that goes up, that comes up out of there, almost like a pathway leading down to the water.
Right, that would be on the east side. Yeah.
Yeah, and then is there a matching one on the opposite end?
Well, on the other side, it is also a much shallower grade. So I think
okay.
that type of sort of wildlife ramp could be achieved on both sides. I do think the one on the east side is probably a little more, a little less steep than the one on the west side, but
okay.
I think it could be achieved on both sides. They also put an awful lot of large rock there, which has made it, sort of easier.
Yeah, I think part of that was also the rocks there is for to mitigate the erosive effects of the
Of
flow.
course, right?
And,
but
it may be better. It may be more functional on the east side, excuse me, on the west side, because the river is going by that as opposed to going directly into it
right.
on the east side. So, but I think it's the reasonable things, and they what struck me with the letter was that they listened to what they listened pretty well to the discussion out in the field.
I think they did, and I'm very grateful because as it I think that any measures we can take, I would support all of these measures, will certainly make the project appear to be more complete and also function better.
So
because
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So it's just appears to be quite unfinished at this point. So yeah.
So the pictures in the letter, which were done 2 months ago, it sounds like from what you can see, not a lot of additional vegetation has sprung up to camouflage those whalers. They're still very
and also it's good. It's going to die back in the winter.
Yeah.
So if the whalers can be painted, because I don't know whether this was rumor or just mistaken information, but those of us in the neighborhood were led to believe that those whalers were temporary.
Mhm.
and that they would be removed once the bank was stabilized. Now, I think possibly there was confusion between the what was, the whalers and the bank stabilization tubes
Mhm.
that will be, removed, I understand from this report, at least most of them, those that don't degrade into the bank.
When you're saying,
So,
are you saying tubes or the wall itself?
no, the tubes,
Okay.
the tubes that are made of organic matter that are the bank stabilization,
Oh, whoa, those, right,
um,
erosion controls, yeah.
the erosion control things, those
Yeah.
based on this letter will be removed. And I'm wondering whether, because the neighbors were convinced that the whalers themselves were going to be removed once the bank was stabilized.
Mhm.
And they were very surprised to hear from me that no, the steel I-beam type whalers that are holding the steel wall will remain. And that I think that the confusion came from them hearing that the erosion control, tubes, I don't know what else to call them other than tubes, there's probably a technical
Mhm.
name,
There-
are
Yeah,
going
yeah. Mhm.
are going to be removed, but the steel whalers are going to remain to hold up the
Mhm.
steel pilings.
Mhm.
So I think it would certainly be something that would be very welcomed by residents of Claybrook Road to have those whalers painted so they blended in
Mhm.
to the steel wall better. Because even though the vegetation, is growing up, will grow up, certainly with the improvements in planting that are proposed, but that's gonna, the leaves are gonna drop. It's gonna die back in the winter.
Mhm.
And then the people, particularly, as I say, on the north side of the river looking back, and the people up on what's called River Hill on Claybrook are going to be looking at those
Mhm.
steel whalers.
Mhm. Well, I think that it was an excellent letter that, as I said, showed that they listened. Uh, Janet, I assume the next step would be to uh, communicate with the highway department along with Paul and see how much of this they can implement this season.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I will draft a response based on the feedback. And Fiona, I'm wondering, what color paint do you think would be most appropriate?
Oh, well, I would say brown. If you look
Yeah.
at the color, I would think that
Yeah.
those steel pilings are, I mean, they
Yes.
appear to be brown to me,
Mhm.
but I'm certainly, I'm an economist, not a decorator, so I
So
would defer. I would
color?
defer.
What color would be most economical? So
Yeah,
the
exactly.
no, I think I was thinking brown as well. I think green would have issues with making it clear when it's chipping. I think brown stain of some form over the galvanized may be more resilient. So we'll pass that on.
Thank you
Uh,
very much.
and commissioners, anyone have any questions or anything to raise?
Sooner they get planting those shrubs, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Fiona.
Thank you all very much for your interest and for your good work on this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll move back to land management. Sorry about the interruption, Anna.
Oh, no problem. Sorry for jumping in so fast. So we postponed our meeting today because I was super busy, and our meeting next week. But in the meantime, we're trying to schedule a site visit to Springdale Meadow Friday, right? So I think I'm not quite sure. I haven't paying close enough attention to email where our logistics are, but we're looking at Friday, so that's good. To go and have a look. We're also, our agenda is including for this coming meeting, the cultural council, maybe planning a trail work a couple of days before the end of the season or before it gets too cold. those things should be interesting. We'll be renaming the trails and working on OpenStreetMap. Also via email, Boynton Glidden messaged and said he's got a white oak. Does anyone want it? So he needs to have it taken out this week. So we won't meet in time, but I was wondering what people's thoughts were. Can we proactively talk to him and accept a donation?
Hey, I was gonna say from the Norfolk Hunt Club, we will take that tree, whatever, like, we'll take it.
Well,
What
the
are you
problem
gonna,
is
what are you
getting
gonna
it
do with it?
somewhere, taking it down and getting it somewhere
Yeah.
and getting it turned into boards.
How big is it?
It's big.
It's big.
Oh, okay.
The idea for us is to build smaller bridges throughout town.
With that tree or just in general?
Yeah, well, in general, and then we will need lumber for it.
What,
I see.
didn't
Mhm.
Boynton give you a couple names of people who might be able to create boards for you?
Yes.
And I think I think he suggested that Greg or Rick talk to them about how much it would cost.
So,
'Cause I
so,
have it, as I told Greg at Springdale Fest, I have a cedar that's 2.5 feet in diameter that's almost completely dead. It has one branch at the bottom that's still alive.
Mhm.
But it's
what-
probably 100 feet high,
Yeah,
straight
what-
as
what-
an arrow.
Hmm.
In a
What-
field, so you can drop it.
okay.
Go
One
ahead,
of
Tim.
the things you can do is there's a company called Wood-Mizer who makes sawmills,
Mhm.
and they have a directory of people who are sawyers in the area. And you can almost certainly make a deal with them that you get part of the wood and they get part of the wood.
I
So-
think
so-
what is it, Crocker over
Yeah,
on
so
the Dedham
Jay
Street?
Crocker,
Jay.
yeah,
Does
Yeah.
he have a sawmill?
I think
does.
so.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
he and I did a project together where we used, we created 18 to 24-inch live edge siding for a cabin.
Wow.
Beveled and wedged and,
I mean,
uh,
Jason arborist, so yeah, that's a great.
yeah, no, that's
Well, he
a
can take the
excellent-
tree down. It doesn't mean he can cut it up.
No, but he
Well,
can
no, he
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
It
so he
looks
does, he
like
has,
from driving by that he can, because I see stuff that looks like he's
yeah, no,
turning it
he cuts.
into boards.
Yeah, he cuts
Great.
it into lumber, yeah. And he also, for the smaller stuff, he actually heats his house, he has a wood-fired boiler outside that then heats the hot water for, heating system for the house. So he's all in on wood and has all the tools necessary for it. But there are also, you mentioned, Anna, there may be a few other names too. But I think Tim's idea of, it could be a win-win for everybody with no money exchanging hands. So that sounds nice. Anything else, Anna?
White oak's very hot.
Yeah.
Or what?
White oak is very hot.
And
Oh, yeah,
It's in
yeah.
big
you
demand
can't
right
find
now.
cedar right now, so that's why I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking a 2.5-foot live edge cedar would be lovely.
Yeah,
Tables, but
Cedar's incredibly expensive at the moment.
yeah.
It's incredibly
yeah.
hard, so whoever comes better sharpen their chainsaw and have several of them.
Cedar is not hard. Cedar's quite
No.
soft.
Yeah, it's
Well, getting it down, I don't know. It seemed like
Yeah.
even the small ones, when we were trying to get them, it's dense, it's very dense,
Mhm.
I think. I don't, maybe,
I don't think so.
no, but it does. No, it does. It's actually fairly
fibrous
light.
maybe.
Well,
I
it's
don't
Yeah, it
fairly
could be hard to
lightweight.
cut.
Yeah, it's fairly lightweight, but surprising when you take a chainsaw to and go, how come this isn't working? And so, but both of them I'm not sure about cedar, but the idea you made the last bridge out of oak. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And cedar, I think, would be even better. But
You
it
can't find
gives you,
cedar now.
but it
That's
would give you,
why-
it would give you some inventory of lumber. Then it's a matter of figuring out where that stays. So
Yeah,
that you can
so-
do some of those.
So it sounds like we can go.
I'm gonna insert myself. At
Mhm.
like 2 meetings ago, I said to John, can I move this meeting along? And he said, yes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm moving this meeting along.
Well, we've done well so far. We're at 8:30.
I know,
so,
but
yeah.
but I'm
Okay.
just saying that
Mhm.
we can go on and on about
Yeah.
oak and cedar and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
We should just
So-
move this meeting along.
One question
So-
before we do we need to vote that land management can accept a donation of cedar so long as we don't pay for it, or do we need to do anything, or should we just do that?
Well, I think one of the things would be, if we were to do that, where would we put it? That's, I think we
Assume we
should have,
figure that out before we accept it.
right, exactly.
I don't want it in my
what I-
front yard.
Yeah, so if, I think we're all in favor of accepting something like that. It's just, we want to, as part of that acceptance, we want to know where it's gonna go.
I think
So-
there's plenty of places of Concom property that we can put it.
Mhm.
We
Mm,
just need to think about it. Like, I think,
Well, let's move this on, Sarah.
no, I mean, no, I mean, I'm thinking about like the trail system and where we can, like, I mean, there's plenty of places that we can hide that kind of stuff.
Tim, do you have to cover this for against rain, or do you leave it open all the time for drying out?
so it depends on how fast you want it to dry it out and how thick it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Usually what most people do is, first of all, it has to be stickered, which means you put 3/4 inch square pieces of wood in between each slab.
Oh, well, right, for air circulation, yeah.
Oh, stickering, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that that makes
And
sense.
then the last piece, which is kind of the unusable end, which is
Mhm.
often used as a cap.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
that tends to keep most of the water off.
Mhm.
Most of the water in a tree is what's called free water. So it's the water, if you cut a tree down and stand up a board on end in your basement, you'll have a puddle at the bottom the next day. Because there's water that'll just run right out. It's the rest of it that takes a long time.
Mhm. Well-
Typically, people use as a rule of thumb, and this is probably in a dry place, an inch a year an inch to dry.
Really, for
Yeah.
drying, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and it probably doesn't need to be fully dry to be used as a bridge. It's, you're not doing.
No, it
yeah,
doesn't,
yeah,
not at
so-
all.
Okay, well, I'm sure the Sawyers that we contact will, have some knowledge about that as well.
Sure
So
they will.
I think, and if you can just, little extra research in terms of potential storage places and the like, and then we could accept it.
Okay,
Yeah, but-
I know Boynton has a deadline for, I think either this week or November, but this week, but
Oh,
maybe we
okay.
can sort out
Well,
Amy's.
no, you tell you what, we can accept it, in conjunction with us finding a future storage place.
Works for me.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for that.
I'll
So
make a motion.
I'm not sure what's, move to accept a donation of cut trees or trees.
Mm-hmm.
second,
Okay, all in favor? Amy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Sarah,
aye.
Anna?
Aye, I'll vote for trees.
And I'm an aye. Okay, so we're we're taking our steps towards clear cutting. So, okay, then, let's see, Janet, we got your expense invoice,
Yes, this is for
and
September, yep.
yeah, so, Phyllis, when did that come in?
I didn't see it.
I sent that out October 1st.
Oh, okay. So, did anyone have a chance to review it?
No, I apologize. No.
So, so basically, I know we've had a lot of work going on, Janet, but this was even more than the previous month. And I'm trying to get it, can you fill us in terms of, if anything's been more complicated or what, how we, why we're going in that direction as opposed to, it seems like things have calmed down a little bit.
Well, I would say not on my end. Things are as busy as probably they've ever been. We have
Mhm.
multiple enforcement. I had 21 invoices. So that was 21 ongoing permits, either new applications, ongoing minor modifications, pre-construction meetings, or enforcement orders. And coordinating all of those, scheduling site meetings, coordinating with other departments, particularly on the ANRAD. People from other departments were saying, where is this, so there was just a very high volume and not too much was cut and dried. Like lot 5 Pagan Lane, that was 3 hearings, an inadequate filing that required a lot of follow-up on my part,
Mhm.
explaining what's needed, looking at
Mhm.
revisions. Actually, 3 sets of revised site plans had to be reviewed. So
Mhm.
I would say it's volume and complexity.
Mhm.
And follow-up. Also, the monthly progress reports, we have 27 current ongoing projects that we get monthly project reports on. And I
Mhm.
look at them very quickly, but that also takes time.
Mhm.
And then, as you know, I serve on the Housing Task Force. I helped draft the RFP for that. That's critical for the town. It also is critical, I would say, for protecting our conservation land. And then our stormwater management regulations are still progressing and we've had some wrinkles. Again, stormwater management and protecting trees, that's very important for wetland protection and conservation. So there's a lot going on.
Mhm. Mhm. And it looked like for non-applicant expenses, does that include, that's primarily your town, a lot of the, um, co-work with the town, is that, because that looks like that went up around $1,000. Is that what that deals with primarily?
Yes, so that's the Housing Task Force, the stormwater management review of monthly permit progress reports. That's any kind of building permit sign off. There were 8 of those in September. Those take time and effort to review. Also tree removal requests. The Charles River School request that came in, that wasn't a formal permit request, but it did require a site inspection and then a summary. And there's several pre-submission reviews also included there. When people have a question before they file something, their question is, do I need an RDA? I need a notice of intent? And that's in the non-applicant.
Okay. Any other questions on the part of commissioners?
No,
Does anyone feel a need to review this more completely on your own before we vote, or do people feel secure with moving forward with the vote tonight?
I feel secure moving forward.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to accept the invoice as presented.
Move to approve the, what month?
September.
September invoice, Janet's September invoice.
A second.
Thank you. All in favor? Amy,
Hi.
Tim,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. Okay, why don't you fill us in, Janet, with your agent's report?
Okay, hopefully we can do this fairly quickly.
I think we're this, so far so good for this evening, so.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Let's going.
We talked about Claybrook, the Claybrook stabilization project. I'll draft a memo in response and copy everyone on that. I'm gonna skip over 46 Springdale right now. 87 Haven Street was in my report. This is a homeowner who has a dead ash tree on a slope adjacent to Valley Farm. I did do a site meeting and I agree that, that going in from the Concom land, there are no wetlands within 100 feet. I did not see any wetlands. It's very high and dry and level, and that would make the most sense. I don't know if we've ever approved this before or not, but I understand the homeowner's concerns about, you know, having the tree removed safely. So I don't know if people have questions. So my recommendation, but I would really like, you know, discussion on this, is approving it subject to the 3 conditions I outlined. That both the property owner and the tree removal company need to sign and submit a liability waiver, holding the town harmless for any personal or property liability. 2, the property owner will have all wood chips removed from conservation townland. 3, the property owner will be responsible for repairing, restoring any damage done to town land. And then 4, and Amy, you probably know the answer to this. I'm not even sure this portion of Valley Farm is under the Concom's care and control.
Yes, now that town meeting happened, it is.
Okay, very good. All right. So that's.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
so Janet, in your, is this Candace's old house or is this the neighbor to the right of her?
This is the red house. up
Yeah,
on-
the colonial, yeah.
Candace's house. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's impossible to get,
Yes, exactly.
there wouldn't be any other way to get there.
In the picture you show, it looks like there's a dead tree to the back right of the barn there.
Yeah,
Is that the one in question?
that's it.
So I don't know if it looks like that may be on the property next door. I'm not sure where the trunk is on that.
He said the tree is on his land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So just bring it out as a warning because it's also as GIS, it's, you know, that land, that lot line can move one way or the other. So it looks
Right.
very close.
So there's a funny sliver of his
Mhm.
neighbor's land behind his property. So he has to get permission from that homeowner as well.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense then. So he'll go in to the left and then go around the back. Is that what he's planning to do?
That's right. It's about,
Okay.
and actually the gate was down. There was no, you know, usually there's a metal,
Gate across it.
yeah, but it was open.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when it was last, it looked like it was mowed fairly recently.
Yeah, it could have been that, or it could have been they had supposedly they were bringing a helicopter in for the fire and police department day. I don't know.
They like
That's-
using that field for that, exactly.
Yeah, for their landing and practice and stuff. Anyone have any issues with the way Janice laid this out?
At all.
Okay,
No.
then is this something that needs a vote?
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sorry,
so.
John, I'm just gonna jump in. So the last condition was, I think we should at least run this by the town administrator. to ensure
Absolutely.
There's no additional approval, and that, I think if Lori could do that, coming from the office, that might be best.
Okay. Great, then why don't we do that? Do we want to vote that pending town approval that we're willing to allow this if those conditions were fulfilled?
Sure. Move to pending town approval. Move to allow the removal of the tree with a crossing over town land,
Second.
the Conservation Commission land.
Yeah, thank you. All in favor, Amy,
Bye.
Tim,
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. Okay, next.
All right, let's see, at our last meeting, we had a discussion about the DPW fuel station impact. And you asked me to send an email to Kevin, the DPW director, which I did do, and I copied everyone. He's just back from his honeymoon, I believe. So I haven't heard back from him. I think he's back today or tomorrow. But just asking if he could attend our October 23rd meeting to
Mhm.
talk about this more. And, I've thought about this a little bit more, and even though this fuel station is outside the buffer, I think when we approved the salt shed and the stormwater system, if we had known they were going to be proposing a fuel station just outside the buffer, we may have looked at that stormwater infrastructure system with
Mhm.
more scrutiny. So I think it is worth to have him come in and to discuss the project, and if there's any additional spill prevention measures that could be taken to protect the wetland.
No, and I thought Carol Lisbon, representing the planning board, made a very good case for review as well. So as long as we've let's move forward with that.
Okay, let's see. So Springdale Meadows, we have a proposed site meeting this Friday, the 11th, at 4:15. Anna, you indicated 4:15 was better for you, and that's fine for the consultant. And I heard back from Amy. Amy was a yes, Sarah was a no. And I didn't know if Tim or John, if you could make the meeting this Friday at 4:15.
Yes. So this Friday I can't. I'll be out of town.
Okay. So
Tim, yeah.
At what time? 4:15?
4:15.
No, I can't.
Okay. So this will be one of two site meetings the consultant will convene to assess the property, look at ecological values, look at wildlife habitat, invasive species, the vernal pool, look at how it's managed now, and then get a sense from everyone in terms of what you feel the goals should be, and what you would like to see this property look like, and have it, how should we use it? How would the town, like residents, like to use it? So I guess the question is, do we want to move forward with our site meeting on Friday, knowing that we will have many opportunities for further discussions with the consultant?
I have no problem with folks moving forward, even though I can't make it. It's more of, I would think if the folks who have, said that they can make it, I think this is a good time to start. And that will raise some questions that may be unanticipated when you're out there, trying to figure that out.
Okay, and Greg from the Land Management Committee and Open Space said he could attend as well. So, okay. And I have a call into Elizabeth Freeman to see if she would mind if we parked at the end of her property. So I'll send out a reminder to everyone and let you know where to park and where we will meet. And we'll hope.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. So I did want to mention something just briefly, which is the way we handle our permit fees. We get fees coming in on every application, every certificate of compliance, RDA, minor modification, ANRAD. A portion goes to the state, about 40% to the state, 60% of the state fee comes to us. In addition, under our bylaw, we also have permit fees for all of those types of filings. The way we have it set up now, all the permit fees that come into us for our bylaw work and review does not stay with us. It goes back to the town general fund.
Yes.
Right now, our wetland under the State Act, that does come back to us. So by law, it has to come back to us and is in a dedicated account. The bylaw fees is something that most towns do have in a dedicated bylaw wetland fee account. And it's really just an administrative matter. Almost every town that I'm familiar with, they have those funds going into a dedicated account. And it can be used in the same way as the other filing fees for enforcement, administration. It also can be used for, say there's an oil spill or an enforcement situation and no one's taking action. If it's an emergency situation, we would now have a source of funds to take immediate action to protect wetlands. And I bring this up just because I know, you know, the budget is what it is. And we're looking for additional funds for having someone to do the minutes, as well as potentially other things. And I just wanted to highlight the, you know, probably what is going into the bylaw regulatory fee and into the general fund is at least twice, if not 3 times what we get under the state. So just an example, the Tisdale Drive ANRAD that is now before us. $411.50 came to us as a fee under the state act for our review. And so that goes into our wetland fee account and stays with us for our use.
All 411?
Yes. But
Or-
under our bylaw, and then $386 went to the state.
So the total was $800 or so, or?
Yes, so that's just
Oh,
a
okay.
state. Under our bylaw, the fee for an ANRAD filing of this amount, this was a substantial ANRAD. The check they wrote to the town was $1,668. And all of that went back into the town general fund, bypassed us entirely.
So
Tim.
then this has been a sore point for as long as I've been on the commission, which is 30 plus years now. In previous administrations, we've brought it up and they said, go away. We're not doing this. This is kind of the way it is and we're not changing it. Maybe that the current administrations would be look on it more favorably, but I tell you that historically, it has been just, you know, stonewalled. Basically, they not even discussed. You know,
Well, I think historically they've dealt with it by just giving us our professional services fee, and then in this year we asked, we'll probably, the way it's going, we'll be asking for a transfer in addition to what we had, and they increased that amount that, you know, this last year as well. We should probably pull the numbers together, because ironically for the WPA funds, that adds around $2,000 a year to that. That's how when we actually
I've
go
done
ahead.
calculations and it's I would say it's more than, it's at least 10,000.
I beg to differ, and I think that's way off. Lori and I sat down and went through the filings. You know, given that we have mostly homeowner filings, somebody does a $400 submission fee, we get you know, call it 200 out of that, and we do maybe 16 filings a year. That would be 3,200. But somehow when we were pulling things up, the funds actually came out to be roughly somewhere between 1,800 and 2,200. So if you think it's 10,000, figure, you know, show us, because we didn't, you know, go in and add everything up, but we multiplied it out just the way I just outlined it for you, and that's what we came up with. That we blew through. Once we didn't even know that was accumulating. That accumulated over 30 years, and then when we finally realized we had it, we basically used it up in 2.5 years. So we're not going to be adding much to that. The town seems to you know, to address Tim's question whether or not the town has changed a bit, they seem to be a little bit more flexible or cognizant of what that things cost more nowadays, and that they're willing to increase our budget. And when we've asked them, we've done, we haven't run into that much pushback. It's always good to have information. So Janet, if you can, the ANRAD may be something that on a bylaw basis jumps out, but I think we need to, and maybe actually Lori, if you have access to all these the checks and so forth, can you get accounting to run a report in terms of what we collect and what, where it goes?
Are you just talking about the wetlands protection money?
No, I think, well, might as well get a firmer grip on that, but also get a separate number for
All the bylaw fees too?
the bylaw fees as well. My sense is in reviewing it, it hasn't been, it's not tens of thousands of dollars. But I'm perfectly happy to be to stand corrected. But even if it's $10,000, the question is what hill to stand on if we are working well with the town to get funds when we need them. But it's also good to be able to show the town, this is what you're getting back from us. But so I think it's good to get those numbers at hand and then make a decision on whether we can make a case to use them more directly, or if we just ask for a greater service budget and use that as a rationale.
Sorry, I misspoke. The 10,000 calculation, I was looking back at 2023 under the bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't the WPA money.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're saying bylaw, does that include waiver fees and things of that nature? Yep. So we have probably, and that's changed over the last few years. So we've come up with that fee, but we don't get that fee. And I think that's reasonable to, come up with a reasonable number, an accurate number. And then we can, in addition to the WPA fee, and then come back around to it as a commission, take a look at it and see if it's money that we want to make a case for, or if we can use it as leverage for getting additional funds. And also it allows us to focus on those sorts of contingencies. Right at the moment, if there's an oil spill, for example, we're powerless. However, whoever spills the oil, DEP is on them in a matter of hours. And those parties are shelling out immediately for things. But it's always, we should, if we have a need for that sort of fund, for a contingency fund, we should be sure of what it is that we're actually going to need to spend that money on. So I think it's a good start. Let's Lori, if you can get the accounting to pull up those numbers, and we'll have a better idea of what we're dealing with on a base.
Okay.
Okay, appreciate that.
So I at one point somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody told me that a phrase that I've used many times in other situations is that dollars are fungible.
In terms of
that it doesn't matter where they come from.
Mm-hmm. And are you saying that sometimes they can be used for something other than
Right,
monetary?
you can exchange them, it doesn't matter, a dollar is a
Yeah.
dollar, but it's not tied to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just
So I think, and part of it is we have seen as the town works to become more professional,
Mhm.
then this may be something that is useful,
Mhm.
depending on what, where their point of view is, or it may be limiting. And this is something we take into account as well. If it turns out that on average, we're going to get $8,000 from this fund, and we, are looking to them for $25,000 more, it may be better used as leverage than to actually get the money and not get the funding.
That's what we've done in the past,
Mm,
talked about, we bring in this money and you should give it back to us, basically.
right. But then if they turn and say, yes, but that's all you get, so.
No.
So I think it's worth being aware of what numbers we have, but I think it also helps us to focus on, if we had access to additional funds, what would we use them for?
Okay.
And And so I think that brings up a reasonable question. And not everything is there for professional services. There are other things, such as land management, trail maintenance. We are becoming more proactive than we have been historically, which I think is great. And I think it's been very helpful for commissioners, who are, putting the time into that. And I think that makes a case that we're providing a service that, not something that's sitting there in the background, but we're actually providing a service. So I think that may all go into the overall picture of things. So Lori will, and apparently sometimes it takes Lori months to get some of these numbers out, but apparently they've given her a little bit more access. So we'll have our fingers crossed and see what we can do on that. Okay, thanks, Janet. Other things?
And then the last was I sent out on October 5th, just the annual report and priorities for the Tree Preservation Committee for the next fiscal year. So that was just for your information. But we are working on a draft tree bylaw that will offer increased protection than the stormwater management bylaw. This would be for clear cutting of a major parcel. And so we're working out, is that a 2-acre parcel or is it a 1-acre parcel? And is it 50% of the lot or more? So we're working out those details, and our goal is to sort of have a focus group with different boards to get everyone's feedback on what actually would help protect trees, but also something we can get through town meeting. That majority of people would be comfortable with. And our sense is it would be for new development, a tear down, or a major expansion on a lot. We're not talking about a deck, a porch, adding a family room, something a homeowner would do. But this is someone who may buy a lot, tear down a house, and clear cut the entire lot just because it's easier to work on a blank slate. So that this is
is there any anything in there, or does it seem like in going in that direction that if a tree is of a certain size, that there has to be if a 36-inch or larger tree, for example, that that there's some mechanism where they have to get permission for that,
Yes.
regardless of things?
Yes. So
Regardless of where it is, you mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking like in, because a number of builders, you're right, a number of builders that go in and just clear cut. A tree like that can be actually a focal point. But at least to give some pause, so that it's not part of the other clearing. As a septic system town, there's a lot of clearing that has to be done for, for things of that nature. But when you have a specimen tree like that, whether there should be a way to have a permission requirement. So
so that's the details that we're working through, but you're absolutely right. Tree of, and anything over 10 or 12 diameter serves so many different functions, especially in addressing climate change as well. So
well, I think it's interesting. Part of it is on a macro basis as a town, we're so tree covered that clear cutting for 1-acre lots is not really going to affect that aspect of it. But on an aesthetic basis, or especially on a NIPDES or a stormwater basis, absolutely critical, for things. For a streetscape basis, I think that's what many other town bylaws, are concerned with. We have, we've gone from being 20% tree covered to more than 80% tree covered in the last 100 years. But the big thing we're looking at is is property rights too, not unnecessarily impeding people's ability to use the land, especially if it's outside of a wetland. And 10 and 12-inch trees, we have our monoculture of trees because once people stop farming, all the trees grew up at the same time. And so we have many trees in that range, but fewer in the much larger range. Do you know, Gina, on the stormwater regulations that were approved, are those in effect at this point, or are you still getting, what the actual regulations would say, or Where do we stand on that?
So the bylaw was passed and we
Mhm.
could have, that was just approved by the Attorney General, I believe at the end of August. But
Mhm.
we have been working on regulations, so we could have tried to enforce just the bylaw. But town council, Nina's input was better to have regulations that really spell everything out clearly.
Mhm.
And so we've been working on those and they're with town council now. So we're
So,
hoping very soon.
So as it was written, it basically creates the building setbacks that people have from lot lines are under control of the stormwater bylaw. Is that correct?
That's right, that triggers, if you're removing, well, there's a threshold of, I can't remember the square footage, but I think it was about 5,000 square feet or more.
Mm-hmm.
The review and the submittal of a tree plan for the perimeter of the lot, the setback.
Okay. And are there, like some other towns, were there any charges, ascribed to, particular trees or anything like that? Or is it just say there has to be a review and that's where the regulations come in?
Yes, that's where the regulations come in, and the goal is to have people slow down, look at the value of the trees, especially for stormwater management. And hopefully
Mhm.
during that process, they won't remove trees, but it does allow them to remove if they mitigate, and the regulations would set the fee per inch of what
Mhm.
they have to put into a tree fund.
So the bylaw approval basically allows the ability for those regulations to be drawn up. Is that
Yes,
okay? Mhm.
so we're almost there. I think we're
Okay.
almost there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great.
And-
Thank you.
Just so you know, both the bylaw and the regulation requires that any submittal that triggers the stormwater bylaw and regs, a copy of their application comes to the Concom. We don't have to approve it, but at least we'll be aware of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Good. So when I'm thinking of like on Dedham Street, where those lots were clear cut, and it seemed like each lot, did they meet NIPD's thresholds, or were they just under? Do you know?
I believe they met, I believe Mike and Jerry was enforcing a NIPD's permit on those lots.
And did that have to be granted before they cut, or was it done after the fact?
No, it can be after the fact.
Oh,
It's
really?
in construction. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, but on a stormwater basis, okay, we'll just see where that as things evolve there. Thank you. Anything else?
Oh, no, just a reminder that the MACC, the fall workshop is on water everywhere. And that's a week from this Saturday. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get to attend, but I know quite a few of you do. So
Mhm.
just a
And
reminder.
where is it?
It is at Fort Devens, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's at Fort Devens this year.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I can't make it, but anyway.
Okay. Great. Does anyone else have anything else they want to bring up? Okey-doke. Well, great. Thank you very much, everyone. And
Thank you, John.
9:12. Thank you,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yep.
And
The new world record.
and there we go.
Not a world record, but it's pretty close. I'm like,
So-
oh my God.
So, okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And hearing no objections, tonight's meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.